Hello and welcome to Peace, Love, and Robots. Yeah, it's a podcast about anything and everything and all that is in between. I'm your host, Jeremy, and this is Season 2, Episode 6 for October 13th, 2021. This podcast is brought to you by the ads you hear at the beginning and end of the show. So if you stay around until the end, I'll forever be in your debt. You notice I didn't put like a little interstitial between the intro and the plug? Did you notice that? I don't know if I like that. I just didn't think that what I was going to say in the middle would have worked in the middle, if that makes sense. It would have been really weird, like the transition from there. And I probably could have made it work if I spent more time writing this particular episode. But I didn't really spend any time writing this episode. I was actually writing. Because stupid me set myself a deadline. And I'm less than a month away now to self-publish this book. So here I am frantically writing for the last, I don't know. I don't even know how to speak English anymore. I've been writing like a madman in all the free time that I have, which isn't a lot, but I've been writing. And I did start this show as sort of an accountability program for myself. And there, I talked to the music. I did start this as an accountability program for myself so I could sort of, force myself to get stuff done because there's nobody else I'm talking to besides my wife, and that just annoys her sometimes. So I'm using this sort of to keep myself committed to a habit, which is publishing a new show every week and writing as much as I can. And I'm not even going to do the sound effects, with the drum roll and all that, but I have written a lot, and it's well over 7,000 words. And I've cheated a bit. It's rewriting words, so it's not like I'm, coming up with new stuff 99% of the time. It's mostly me rewriting and tightening up and adding stuff to the final layer of the final draft of this book that I'm hopefully going to publish November 11th. We're getting there. We're getting there. I'm about halfway done. So I've got, some time. I'm not going to rest on my laurels. I'm not going to, waste my time, think I have plenty of time. I'd rather, blow through as much of this as I can so that I'm not like I was when I was in college sometimes where I'm up all night trying to meet my deadline. And really, the deadline's not November 11th. It's like November 5th. Or 4th, because I'm going away on a writer's retreat for the day, November 6th and the 7th. I picked daylight savings time, so I actually get to fall back and gain an hour. Tried to game the system a bit so that I could do the final touches of the manuscript so that I can get it all ready to publish a few days later. So I'm not gonna rest until I finish, because nothing will be better than looking on my bookshelf and seeing something that I made. Yeah. So that's really what I'm doing. I'm not expecting to sell more than a couple of copies, really. I'd love to. I'd love to sell a bunch. It'd be great. Maybe it'll help me pay all my medical bills from the last year. But I even kicked around doing a Kickstarter, where I could raise $1. That'd be the funds I wanted to raise. I remember a band that I follow, Mike Maines and the Branches, did that for their album, where they basically said, we're only going to raise $1, but basically these are all pre-orders for the record. And that's what they did, and the $1 was what they wanted to make to meet their goal, and then everything else was on top. And, if I can make enough from a Kickstarter, I'd throw it all into my medical bills, but I'm not going to do that. That's just no fun. There's a lot of logistics involved with that, and I just don't feel like doing that. I'm lazy to a fault, I guess. But I've been doing a lot of writing. But I didn't write an episode for today. I did didn't really think about what I was going to say until like 10 minutes ago when I was walking the dog, and I'm thinking, oh man, I got to record something because I got to publish, because I record on Tuesdays to publish Wednesday morning. Ooh, trade secret. But anyway, this really what I want to talk about today is I'm going to get a little nerdy for a minute. I'm going to talk about something that happened over the summer, and really, it didn't happen over the summer. Okay, I made no secret that I absolutely love He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It's my favorite show when I was a kid. I wish it was better. I have the shows on DVD and they're not that good. We did get the reboot that we deserved in 2000, where they did a new version of the show. It was great. It was on the Cartoon Network. Loved it. It's phenomenal. And then it only lasted like 2 or 3 seasons. And they set things up, but for a new season, and we never got it. So we didn't get it. So, but a couple of years ago, Netflix announced, "Hey, we're doing a new He-Man show, and Kevin Smith is going to write and direct it." And Kevin Smith is sort of like the king nerd, you know. I was a huge fan of his back in the day. I kind of outgrew a lot of his humor. I didn't even watch his last Jay and Silent Bob movie, but I was a big fan. I mean, in college, my friends and I religiously watched both Clerks and Mallrats. I can still, to this day, quote Mallrats almost verbatim from beginning to end. And, I even made it a point to buy tickets to watch Jersey Girl on opening night. So that's a fan, right? When my son was born, my oldest, we didn't have cable. So what did I watch while he and I had bonding time in the middle of the night? Well, we had a VCR and I had a VHS copy of Clerks, the animated series. I read his comic book run on Daredevil, and I listened to every podcast on his Smodcast network for a while. Now, I was also very concerned when he had a heart attack a few years ago. He's only a couple years older than I am. So I was concerned for him, and thankfully he came through. He's lost a ton of weight, which is good for him. And, maybe I haven't established my fandom enough. One year when I went to New York Comic Con alone, I went with friends, but I was driving home alone. And instead of going directly to my house, I drove about 2 hours out of my way to visit the famed Secret Stash comic book shop in Red Bank, New Jersey. I even visited the Quick Stop while I was on the way, the setting for Clerks. And how about this? I actually watched the entirety of Tusk. Tusk! Yeah, that's a fan. So yeah, I'm a fan of Kevin Smith, and I'm also a fan of Masters of the Universe. I remember curling up on the floor of my grandparents' den. They had a small 13-inch black and white TV on the floor, and I was watching He-Man, and that was part of the STM Club cartoon block on WSTM TV out of Syracuse. And during the summers, when the wind caught Lake Ontario just right, I'd watch it along with G.I. Joe, Transformers, Thundercats on WUHF from Rochester, Channel 31. I had always wanted the Master of the Universe toys, and my mom, she bought me what she could. We were poor. They were $5 a piece, and that was a lot of money back then. I had a friend who gave me 2 Bad for my birthday. I had another friend give me a Broken Man-at-Arms who, despite his lack of legs, had many adventures with the figures my mom found on clearance, like Roboto, Grizzlor, Fisto. But I never had a He-Man, and I never had a Skeletor. But I made do with what I had. Had I owned either of those or all of the toys, I guarantee you that He-Man and Astride Battle Cat would have saved the day countless times, because that's what Masters of the Universe was all about. I did outgrow He-Man for a while, really. I always had that fondness for the property. I loved the early 2000s. They were the halcyon days of no cable and dial-up internet, and my cousin Mike, he taped the reboot that I talked about that was on the Cartoon Network just so I could watch it. I bought the comics. I wasn't a toy collector at that point, but to be fair, I was unemployed and underemployed at that time, so buying toys was the last thing on my mind. But I guarantee, if I had my current income now back then, I'd be staring at a shelf full of these Master of the Universe toys from that series. At some point in the future, I discovered that Mattel had begun to reissue deluxe versions of the classic characters through a special website called Matty Collector. And I didn't get into that line because it was also during a lean financial time for me, and I didn't want to get in the middle or towards the end. But I did, however, make sure I purchased the Master of the Universe minis, which were a smaller scale, more cartoony versions of the characters like He-Man, Skeletor, Scareglow, lots of that stuff. They even came with pieces to build this small Castle Grayskull for them to stand around. So have I established my fandom enough yet? I guess I could also mention that once announced, I pre-ordered and continued to order every single figure in the Masters of the Universe Club Grayskull line. They were the classic style figures in the aesthetic of the original Filmation cartoon. I even followed the line from Mattel, who stopped producing them, to Super 7, who bought the license for a couple of years. So you could say I'm a fan of the Masters of the Universe. And all in all, I would say it's not too realistic to say that I've probably over my lifetime spent over $1,000 on toys and other Masters of the Universe paraphernalia. Now, that's over a lifetime, not over a week, over a lifetime. You don't spend that kind of money on anything if you don't love it. So when they announced on Netflix that they had inked a deal for a new Masters of the Universe cartoon series and that Kevin Smith would be the showrunner, I was excited. Kevin Smith, the fanboy, king of fans, king of nerds, was going to oversee the creation and release of my favorite franchise in the world. Yeah, I would be ashamed to admit that I love Masters of the Universe more than Star Wars even. I would not be ashamed of that. Maybe they're about equal. I kept tabs on whenever news would come out about the show. The voice cast seemed pretty good. I mean, if you can't get Alan Oppenheimer as Skeletor, Mark Hamill isn't exactly slumming it, but what was the story going to be like? Well, with every TV show, there's rumors, and one rumor about Masters of the Universe Revelation was troubling to a lot of people. Reported first at Clownfish TV, it's a YouTube channel focusing on popular culture. It's run by a friend of mine. There was a rumor that He-Man would step aside for part of his new show, and Teela would be placed front and center. Now, this is where it gets fuzzy. Kevin Smith denied that, saying the show was all about He-Man and that the rumor was untrue. But here's the thing. I know the people who run Clownfish TV, and I've known them for years before they were Clownfish TV. And I knew they were telling the truth. But I hoped that what I heard was not true. They reported it as rumor, and they didn't say it was absolutely 100% true. It was a rumor, and we all hoped that it would stay that way. And months passed, and finally there's a teaser. Set to the driving beat of Bonnie Tyler's Holding Out for a Hero, an 80s anthem meant to excite you. We were treated to shots of Skeletor, the Land Shark, Clamp Champ, Battle Cat, the Bashosaurus, and even Roboto. You saw Teela battling the Evil Lyn and a bunch of other fun Easter eggs for fans of the franchise. But in the back of my head, I was still nervous. What if the cool stuff in the trailer was only from the first episode? What if the rumor was true? Nevertheless, I was excited. They announced the release date was July 23rd, and that was last week. So I watched, well, not last week. It was July. I did watch it, and I have thoughts, and you can probably find 1,000 videos on YouTube ranting about it, either for or against or ambivalent. But I'm going to give my take here. There'll be spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled, it's been out for a few months. Don't listen. I want to talk about what I liked about the show first. And I just don't want to talk about what I hated. I want to say there's things I hated, but I liked a lot as well. I liked Evil Lyn. I liked Orko. I thought Roboto was pretty good. Scareglow was probably the highlight of the entire series because, well, who can't like a glow-in-the-dark skeleton? It's pretty awesome. But what did I hate? Well, I guess I can talk about what I hated without pointing out that in all the promotion for this show, we were told that the show would be all about He-Man and that it was a sequel to the original series. And Kevin Smith was caught multiple times lying about how much of a fan he was back in the day. He's a few years older than me. He wasn't a fan. He actually said in an interview that he would mock it when he'd come home and laugh and think it was cheesy. But you can find plenty of these examples on YouTube. I'm not going to dig them up. So anyway, this show is all about He-Man, right? No, not at all. Because in the first episode, He-Man dies. Yeah, he dies. How does a Master of the Universe show exist without He-Man? And that's not even the worst part. Once it's revealed that He-Man and Prince Adam are one and the same, King Randor banishes Duncan and Teela loses her mind. Yeah. She becomes that lady at the funeral who makes it all about her, like throwing herself on the casket or talking about how she was the only one who truly loved the recently deceased. She throws an absolute fit. Your son is dead, but let's talk about how I was lied to. She throws her headpiece to the ground and